NZ Aerosports, Icarus Canopies, now Gyro. That's right, we've rebranded, and Gyro is our next generation. It honours our founder, as that's the name we knew him by, but Gyro also marks the start of a new chapter. And not to be biased, but it's going to be fucking epic. Long story short, we're more us than ever, so if you're new to the sport, or even a Sky God Ninja Turtle, welcome. I think our valiant leader Lucy, Gyro's daughter, says it best.
And we still got that fuck yeah attitude. Rebrand! Woo!
Rebrand woo indeed, Lucy. Anyway, head over to gyro.com for more info and get amongst you legends.
I was 19, broke, unemployed, and sold my girlfriend's canopy for drug money. So I thought I better sew her a new one. What a sentence, and what a story. This describes the humble yet outrageous beginnings of NZ Aerosports, the home of Icarus Canopies, in the words of our founder himself. From getting a paratrooper toy from his mom, watching parachutes at the DZ as a 6-year-old, jumping off the wharf with a parachute made from bed sheets, doing his first jump at 16, sewing his first canopy on a borrowed machine at 19, and starting to sell parachutes out of a garage in 1986, Paul Gyro Martin had an undying love for the sky. Our company started with one man with the wildest of spirits and a true blue sky dream, a renegade. In the time that Gyro created and ran the Icarus Canopies brand until he passed away in 2017, he pushed everything he had to its limits. We miss him, and we always will. Gyro is the next generation of NZ Aerosports. It honors our founder, of course, because it was the name we all knew him by, but Gyro the rebrand also marks the start of a new chapter, our next jump. Gyro is the space between sound and silence, art and science, chaos and calm. Gyro is a state of epic tranquility that transcends understanding. That moment, in the door, in free fall, mid-swoop, where nothing but the present exists. A perfect balance of euphoria and thrill. Gyro captures our passion for flying and our commitment to designing break-the-fucking-rules canopies that deliver pilots pure, wild flight. Hey gang, so I got a new book out. It's called The Upside of Fear, and it's exactly what you think it's about. It's about the good side of, well, getting scared. In it, we talk not only about the science and biology behind fear, but the psychology as well. And it's not just coming from me, it's coming from some of the best in the sport. Omar Alhigelan, Jeff Provenzano, Maxine Tate, and so many more have contributed their sometimes terrifying stories to the book to help you overcome your fear. So head to the lunaticfringepodcast.com. You're going to find the link to the book there, as well as the other books. It's available in ebook, paperback, hardback, and audiobook right now.
Coming straight from the cockpit, it's another episode of Lunatic Fringe with the fucking pilot.
Ready, set, go! All right, back in the can for another edition of Lunatic Fringe, into the void and straight into the conversation. Who the fuck are you, and what do you do?
So I'm Simon Colmer, and I'm going to say kind of a semi-professional skydiver, but mostly an IT person.
A semi-professional skydiving IT guy. All right, cool.
Yeah.
So how are you a semi-professional at skydiving?
Well, I mean, like I get paid to do some skydiving, but I'm not going to pretend it's my whole profession like a full tandem master will. You know what I mean? I'm that standard sort of like, oh, that guy's an accountant, like except it's IT.
Fair enough. It's always funny for me because obviously, especially deep into the sport, so many people that's all they do. So I'm always interested to talk to people that live in the real world as well as our world because they're so fucking different sometimes.
Oh man, it's a trip, hey. Like, so my 9 to 5 Monday through Friday is basically arguing people in like the rat race,
right?
And looking at them all day, every day, going, I can't wait to get through this so I can actually go out to where the real world is.
I mean, does it give you a greater appreciation for our world? Because from the outside, for me, it seems so fucking miserable.
Oh man, I mean, like so. You got to have a profession, right? Like do you have to? Let's say it's probably advisable to have a profession.
Sure.
And then kind of seeing the whole skydiving world, it's like, wow, that's so romantic. I really love the idea that you can go out there and live your truth and all that nice stuff. But yeah, you get so much perspective by sitting in a cubicle and getting your soul crushed every day.
You would have to. And but I suppose it is a mixed bag, because for the majority of professional skydivers, it's a feast or famine kind of lifestyle, right? I mean, if you're a tandem instructor, an AFF instructor, or whatever, your life is not in your own hands; it's in Mother Nature's hands most of the time. And so maybe you have a really good season, or maybe you're eating the noodles from Top Ramen on Saturday and drinking the water on Sunday.
I love Top Ramen.
Yeah, there you go. That always just seemed like the trade-off is you get to, live this passionate life, but you're going to be scraping by, or sometimes you do really good. But the flip side to that is you sit in a soul-crushing cubicle and you might have a shitload of money, but you hate your life.
Oh, man. I mean, I'm definitely painting it in a negative light. It's really not that bad, but it certainly has its moments where you go, oh, wow, I could just run through that window right now.
All right.
But I'll tell you what it does do. It gives you heaps of perspective of how fucking good skydiving is, hey?
Right.
It gives you a perspective of not just the thing we're doing, but how good the community and the culture is. Like we've obviously got access to all the type A personalities, like all the high fives and the rest of it. And the beauty of watching someone coming into the game and, like they're doing their AF and they're just a bit blah, blah, blah. And then a few years later, they are just getting buck wild. They don't jump with clothes on anymore. It's always naked. You know, they're living out of a van, eating Top Ramen all day. And it's beautiful to watch people go through that transformation.
Sure.
And it's beautiful to have that context along what is probably a pretty conventional lifestyle.
Well, now, do you think it also allows you a little bit more mental relaxation in the so-called real world, knowing that if you really got sick of it, the naked jumps in the fucking trailer await you?
Oh, well, I mean, step one, I've actually got a trailer, so, naked jumps.
There you go.
But yeah, you know what, man? Like, I've actually thought about it a few times. I really thought maybe that tunnel instructor job's for me. Maybe that tandem master job's for me. And just the reality of where my my actual sense of enjoyment is.
Sure.
I'm someone who likes to do something in extremes for short bursts of time. If I had to enjoy what I did all the time, man, I would run out of enjoyment. So it's probably good that I do it in short bursts.
Sure. Well, and I think that's where my luck came in too. And midway through my skydiving career, I switched to a flying portion, but I got to still enjoy the community, but with a completely different job and learn this new thing. And then as that started to get a little bit stale, I got to go back to jumping like it was brand new. Because, you skip jumping for a while and it scares the piss out of you again. It's fucking great.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's so many different facets and so many different perspectives to skydiving, right? So there's obviously the pilot, the DSO, CI, and that's before you even really get into the free fall style.
Right.
I've been jumping since 2013 or something like that, and I've been a free fly coach for how many years? It's like 6 or something years. I don't even know how many of my jumps are actually free fly coach jumps, but it's between some number and about 1,000, I think.
Sure.
And so, when you're in that game and you're trying to push your free flying forward and you're also trying to coach other people and stuff like that, you kind of sometimes lose perspective that there's other angles to attack, like with swooping and the rest of it. And that's kind of the real joy of it is that, when you go, I want to do something different, it's there for you. So
Sure.
It's not just like real life in skydiving. Well, not real life in skydiving. That's probably the wrong way to put it. It's that rat race life in skydiving.
Right.
And then within skydiving, there's this perspective, this opportunity, blah, 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 blah. It's just freaking awesome how many dimensions there are to it.
There really are. Well, and every time you start to get burned out on one, there's a dozen more you can go to, for sure. For sure. And it also leads to so many other little things that kind of hover around skydiving, whether it be base jumping or speed flying or all these different directions that you can go, even just outside the sport, that's still part of the same community, which is pretty fucking cool.
Oh, totally. Yeah. I mean, in your conversation with Jeff Weatherall a few podcasts ago, that was hilarious. It's like, that guy, I know this guy, or that guy knows this guy. It's just like, the game is so small.
Oh, yeah.
It's so awesome.
It used to be the whole 6 degrees of separation, but in skydiving, it's like one. You know, I mean, if I don't know you, I know a dozen people that do. It's just that small of a sport, which is amazing. Now, before we get too far ahead, because I definitely want to dive into the skydiving portion of it, I want to know how you got started in all this shit. Did you do crazy, extreme, stupid shit as a kid, or how did you get into it?
I mean, I'm probably there's two ways to kind of attack it. As a younger person, I was sort of a younger person. I still consider myself young. I'm only 35, but definitely was younger. I was, some stuff happened. Parents basically split when I was a kid, and kind of got mixed in with the wrong crowd a little bit for periods of time. And that kind of whets the appetite for getting into some pretty gnarly stuff. So, I eventually found my way into, like snowboarding, which was kind of to whet the appetite. I've got a pretty big background in like powerlifting and bodybuilding and stuff like that, which didn't really kind of lead me to skydiving, but I've always been interested in sort of like getting the heart pumping and doing something that's a bit weird and crazy, not necessarily for any external validation, just because it's just nice to do something that you go, this is a bit wild. Yeah. I eventually found my way to motorcycling, which is, got into motorcycle racing and raced, some good Japanese bikes, and ended up on a Ducati 1199S, which was awesome. And, with that bike, I couldn't allow myself to ride that thing on the road anymore because it was kind of getting blurry when it was track time and when it was road time. Ooh. I didn't have a spill on the Ducati, but yeah. So for me, there's always been this perpetual feeling of like, how do I juice more out of this? You know what I mean? How do I get this really exciting moment? But it wasn't really those activities that kind of led me to skydiving. That was just kind of me laying the groundwork for what it is that I consider to be my lifestyle. And, realistically, those things that I did were lifestyle choices. They're not something that you just go and pick up and do on a Sunday, like golf, you know what I mean? Like not putting down golf. Right. Meanwhile, I suck at golf, but, like you do things that kind of inspire, like you're around some cool people who do some crazy stuff. But what really kind of set the whole thing in motion was I was in a plane accident in October 2008.
Wait a second, hang on, I'm going to stop you. So airplane accidents are what keep people out of skydiving. You got in an airplane accident and it led you to skydiving?
Yeah, in a sort of a roundabout way, but it was a plane accident.
What happened?
It was sometime in late 2008, and I was on my way back from Singapore to Perth, taxiing back to Melbourne, and I'm there cruising. It was a PlayStation Portable. I remember playing this PlayStation Portable handheld game. I'm just cruising, and I remember seeing everything in the seat pocket in front of me just go poof, straight up to the roof. I'm like, what the actual fuck just happened there? And lo and behold, in the walkway, there's a dude floating. I'm like, what the fuck is this dude there floating? And why is the food cart there also floating?
Oh, Jesus.
It made, and it made no sense. And, knowing what I know about it now, is like we actually did first it was a 20-second drop in freefall, pulled, I think, a G or something like that. Right. And then that came to a abrupt boom, and then, everything set. And it was actually the gnarliest one. There's actually two drops, and in that first drop, people hit the roof and dislodged panels. Jesus. The cupboards where you put all your carry-on luggage and stuff like that. Doors come off. Doors were actually falling off. People had hit the roof so hard that they actually hit the cabin with their head and punctured a whole head-size hole in the cabin. And there I am, just trying to work out what the hell just happened. Like, I've still got my PlayStation Portable in my hand, going, pause the game. Right. Yeah. That's it made sense. Pause the game. And there was a mask in front of me. I'm like, what's this mask doing here? It was just such a weird experience. I'm like, do I grab that mask? No one else had got a mask, so I reach for it. Anyway, the lady in front of me, she grabs the mask. I'm like, what's going on here? And the pilot comes on the phone. He's like, yo. He didn't say yo, but he's like, yo, seatbelts on. We've just had an unexplained descent. Blah 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 blah. And people are like, oh my god. Sure. And so then the second drop is like 16 seconds or something like that. And that's the one where everyone goes, holy shit, myself included. All that TV stuff of life flashing before your eyes, man. 16 seconds of hearing. I have never heard myself scream the way I remember I did. Like, that's the only time I've heard myself give that, like, holy shit, my life is ending scream. That was super gnarly.
Yeah, it had to be. Fucking hell.
Oh yeah. So yeah, there's documentaries about it. QF72, if anyone's interested, you can watch a whole bunch of stuff on YouTube and like all these other things on like proper like air crash investigations. So we start making our way to this airport in Western Australia in like the desert, and I'm at this point going, like the pilot's not giving us an assurance that we're actually going to be okay at this point. Like, whatever. Pull the phone out, manage to get a bar reception, send a message to my mum. We've had a plane accident. I'm not sure if we're going to make it. I love you. Boom, message sent. No reception anymore. Just get the one message out. The pilot actually manages to land us at this Air Force base in the middle of the desert in Western Australia, and we're stuck there for like 14 hours. We get off safely, except for obviously the people who are hurt.
Right.
And so yeah, it's pretty crazy. They fly planes in to come pick us out. So here we are, a bunch of people being in this plane accident. It's like, get straight back on the plane. And yeah, we got out of there. But real hectic experience.
How the fuck does that lead you, even in a roundabout way, to want to jump out of an airplane?
Well, I mean, I had PTSD for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And so, unsurprising. Saw a psychologist to kind of help make sense of it. And, like part of that was a list is just like, this stuff that, I'd put off for so long. And there was this sense of catharsis with ticking it off, go do this, get heaps of tattoos, blah, 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 blah. And then the last thing was skydiving. And I put it off for a long time, heaps long time, about 5 years. So yeah, it came to this point where, things were, still a bit difficult. And it's like, oh shit, there's that list with that thing, that skydiving thing. And mind you, I am terrified of heights. Like, I live in an apartment. I don't like being on the balcony, right? Like,
yeah,
I don't like standing on a table. I don't like standing on tables, right? It doesn't make sense. But so yeah, I go. I'm like, oh, cool. I want to do a skydive. Well, I'm only going to do one ever. Famous last words.
Of course.
Better not be a tandem. So I'm going to do an AF, and check into this place called Skydiving Nagambie in Victoria, and I do one, and I'm like, holy crap, I'm a falling sack of meat in the sky. Changed everything for me. Sat down on my own for 20 minutes, and I walked back up to the manifest. I'm like, yo, give me another jump. And like nearly 9 years later, I haven't stopped.
It's funny, especially that you mentioned PTSD, because I think people really underestimate how different, in what different forms that can come in. PTSD is fucking common. Anything that fucked you up momentarily, or for whatever, can come back to haunt you, and people don't get it. And I've dealt with it as well. I had a real bad near miss with a motorcycle accident in LA literally 5 lifetimes ago. And it came back to bite me like a year and a half later, just out of the blue, fucking panic attacks and all that shit. And it was the same kind of thing. Man, I stopped drinking anything with caffeine. I wouldn't touch alcohol or drugs or anything like that. I'm like, something's wrong. I don't know what it is. And I couldn't figure out what it was. And skydiving kind of helped me out with that as well, because I was scared as fuck of the idea of going out and making a jump. But you do something that scares you, and you not only survive it, but you have fun doing it. Man, that'll change your perspective.
Oh, totally, man. Yeah, I mean, skydiving certainly helped with the journey of kind of healing, but it certainly didn't make the problem go away. Like there's a whole bunch of hard work that needs to go in to try and get your shit together.
Yeah.
And there's been a fairly extensive road to try and get on top of that. But like, whilst having the beautiful journey of skydiving that it is, I've kind of had the ability to draw water from the well, so to speak, from a really fucking positive environment, and sort of overcome that. I am still scared as fuck about planes though. Like, I still am in the plane often, going like, I don't like planes.
Yep.
And lucky there's not a heap of turbulence in jump aircraft like there is in commercial planes, where the whole thing just shakes and you're like, I haven't got a rig on my back. Oh my God, I don't want to be here.
Well, that was one of the weird transitions for me when I went from jumping to flying. Is obviously when you're jumping, you're watching your altimeter, and as a skydiver, I didn't like being in the plane any more than most jumpers do. So you wait for that magic altitude where you know you can fucking get out. Okay, I'm good. I can breathe now. It doesn't matter because I'm right near the door and I can get out. But then I took the rig off and sat up front, and I went, well, fuck.
Yeah, I got a good mate.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry, man. I'm just going to tell this story. I've got a good mate of mine, Mason Corby, who, I'm sure your listeners have heard of this guy before. He's an all-time Aussie legend. Hey, like just full weapon, this guy. And we've been friends for a long time. He's actually my one of my first tunnel coaches. And he said to me, like, you know what, Colmer, like, if a plane breaks apart at like 30,000 feet, I'm going to have the best time. I'm like, what are you talking about, Mason? You're going in, buddy. And he's like, everyone is going to be there in free fall, like trying to work out what's happening. And I'm just going to go and fly up and high five everybody. They're going to be like, what am I seeing? Thinking they're full tripping. He's like, it's the best flight I'm ever going to have.
Yep.
Oh, dude.
I did a flight.
I think about that often when I'm in the plane.
I think it was either my first or second year in the sport, and I got hired by a guy by the name of Will Forshea to go shoot the landings portion of a video he did called Lemmings, which was for Bridge Day. So I basically stood on the ground and watched people drill themselves in all day long. And on the way there, it was, I think, 8 or 9 of us, the skydivers, all sat together in this commercial flight, got on a loud conversation, as skydivers do, about what we would do if the airplane broke up and we were out in free fall. And of course, everybody's talking all that same shit, but all these passengers are listening to us talking horrible stuff. So there were not a lot of happy people on that flight as we're talking about, yeah, we'll get an 8-way going and do this and do that. And then FAA is going to really wonder how all these people ended up dying holding hands. It was just, I don't think anyone else appreciated our humor. So
no, it's so easy to get stuck into those jokes, eh?
Yeah, but they're fucking fun, man. I mean, that's that dark humor that skydivers seem to grow into with the sport. I think you kind of have to.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
So you got started in jumping by doing the first AFF and fell in love with it right away. And then what was the progression for you?
Man, I tell you, I was not a gifted skydiver when I first started, and I'm not a gifted skydiver now. There's been a lot of hard work. Like on my first AF, like I'm a thick boy, right? Like I'm about 97 kilo, which is like, I think it's like 220 pounds or something like that.
That's fast fall rate.
But I was 105 out like before gear when I did my AF.
Wow.
And I lost one of my AF instructors because I full de-arched, but a full starfish, mind you, the perfect ninja star, but de-arched, like the most inefficient like AF position ever. And that was kind of the hallmark of my beginning as skydiving. Hey, it was just like could not exit an aircraft to say, I mean, exit, yeah, but not well.
Right.
450 jump. But yeah, just kind of really dealing with the whole, I am a heavy boy and flat flying just seems to not be for me.
Yeah.
And I remember back then, dropzone.com, like the forums was a big thing because Facebook was at, in infantile sort of level of state.
Yeah.
And so I found an advert for a tunnel camp in Singapore to go and fly with John Walker from Eloy Tex.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I'd seen a few free flyers around the drop zone. I didn't really quite appreciate what was going on, and at the time, actually, a whole bunch of them had sort of moved on to other drop zones, which was just kind of part of the ebb and flow of things in my state of Victoria in Australia. But yeah, so then that tunnel camp, I remember I did 6 hours, and I'm like,
wow,
do another 4. Yeah, and so I'd never done any free fly in the sky, and so I came back from that camp, and my first free fly jump was like an 8-way, which was like, it was a little loose, but yeah, it is what it is. And so that kind of set me up as just like, I really dig this free fly stuff.
Sure.
And I just went hammer and tong. I just ate up every hour of tunnel I could find. I did like 30 or something hours in like 2 years. I was just blowing 400 jumps a year on whatever it is I could, and it was all free fly. All of it was free fly. So yeah, that was kind of the trajectory, and I did just a ton of free fly jumps before I became a free fly coach.
Sure.
My drop zone operator was like, we need someone to help out here, and like found myself in a position where I was one of the more senior free flies of the drop zone. So I took that on, and super rewarding experience. Like
Sure.
What it's like to teach someone. Like you want to master something. Teaching someone is kind of what you do to really kind of check your knowledge.
Absolutely. Well, it makes you focus. Yeah. It makes you hyper focus on what you're doing and have to try and find a way to impart that to someone else, not just in a way that makes sense, but in a way that makes sense specifically to them.
Big time, yeah. And you've got to actually understand what motivates people, so you can understand what motivates you, how to communicate. Do you understand the engineering of how this body flight stuff works? Because you can't just always tell a student feel without the ability to kind of describe it in any sense.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah. And that was kind of the game.
Now, it's so like a lot of the modern free flyers, you got your edge and learned the nuances of it in a tunnel. And I've always had a not even a love-hate relationship, but a love-anger relationship with the tunnel, because I started out as a bit of a tunnel rat in the Vegas tunnel, but it was not a modern tunnel. It didn't fly like these do. So it taught me how to fly a bunch of cloth. So, of course, camera jacket came in for me, was perfectly natural to put on a set of wings. But you couldn't free fly in this tunnel. You couldn't learn any of the skills that you can learn nowadays. And I've been able to talk to lots of different people, and everybody agrees, and I do as well, that the tunnel is fantastic for progressing the sport, but it still irks me a little bit that someone with a bunch of tunnel time and 1/100th of the jumps can fly circles around me.
Oh man. Yeah, I mean, I think it's the burden of experience, for your generation, my generation. It's like with every generation, if we've done our job right, the next generation is that much better, and they will fly around you very quickly. You know what I mean? And like now we're many generations ahead of the current generation coming through. And like I get people coming up to me like, "Oh man, I can't get this flock and roller to work." I'm like, "Dude, you have 300 jumps. Calm the actual fuck down."
Right.
Like, dude. Upset about, I can't get this head up flock and roller to work. I'm like, head up flock and roller? I just heard about this the other year, dude.
Yep.
Settle down.
Yep. It cracks me up, and I love seeing it though, and I kind of put ego aside enough to know I'm not even going to be in the top half of jumpers at a drop zone. I'm basically back to student status with a lot of the shit that's happening now, and I'm fine with that. I'm also, I love now being more of a spectator, because a lot of the shit that's being done now, I don't even want to try and do. It just looks too much, man. So it's super cool for me to be able to see this progression, especially since I got started in a windy tube so many fucking years ago. But yeah, part of me is like, oh god damn it, man, I got started a little late.
Well, I mean, you've been around long enough to know in life and in skydiving, like you can reinvent yourself, you can reinvigorate yourself, and, you can effectively start again, or you can keep building. You know what I mean? And I think that's a really important hallmark to the skydiving thing, is that you're gonna trip up along the way, and you're gonna potentially have demotivation points and stuff like that. But you can put the hammer down again.
Sure. Absolutely. Well, and I was lucky enough to take relatively large breaks and then get the urge to go jump again. And once a skydiver, always a skydiver. You're going to have it forever. And for me, being able to shed the working skydiver title and just go out and be a fucking fun jumper is phenomenal, because now I jump when I want to jump, and I'm a fair weather skydiver, and I go out and have fun and do whatever the hell I want to do. Like I had my 25th anniversary, a month and a half ago, and went out and did a solo. Just jumped out of the airplane and fucking fell.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Legend. Just fucking legend.
T-shirt and shorts, and just did a solo from 13,000 feet. And I remember the only thing that I thought on the way down was the skin on my arms never used to move this fucking much. I'm like, yep, I put a few years on.
Oh, dude, if you ever want to be humbled, get footage of yourself skydiving topless or naked or whatever, and you go, So
Yep.
I am effectively back in the box. The
Yep.
ego has been checked.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, I learned that lesson a long time ago because I started shooting in Vegas and shooting videos all the time. And every year, the adult industry awards would come through the porn
Wait,
awards.
shooting adult films? Is that what you mean?
No, like shooting skydiving videos. But because the
I was
porn,
about to say, I thought you were shooting porn.
no, God, no. The porn convention would come through Vegas every year, though, and every single year, some porn star would want to do a skydive naked. Or because it's Vegas, somebody wants to jump naked. And every time you'd shoot one of those videos, you're in free fall just going, oh, Jesus, God. Oh, it's just not good. I'm sure it feels great, but it looks like hell.
Oh, dude, yeah, the body is just not meant to be subjected to that in free fall. Hey,
No, it's not. So yeah, that was my wake up call on my 25-year anniversary. Was wow, okay, yep, things are starting to change. So you're still balancing that with the real world, which is still, I'm always astounded when people are able to effectively do both. But I mean, you're a super active jumper as a part-time job, basically.
Yeah. I mean, I've done, I think it's like nearly 3,000 jumps in like 8.5 years, which is pretty good for, I just do weekends and events, I think.
Sure.
But you know, when you love it, you love it. You know, I mean, I kind of at the beginning of our chat kind of put down the rat race and office job and stuff like that. But the reality is I actually really freaking like my job. I just really struggle with the environment of being in the corporate environment where you've got to have this corporate fakeness and stuff like that.
Sure.
So I don't really hate it as much as maybe I described. That's probably unfair. But kind of having the ability to recharge during the week to bring your best game for the weekend is a pretty fortunate position as far as like trying to drive hard.
Sure.
You know, I can think of a couple of people I know. So there's a swooper over in the USA called Richo Butts. He's actually an Aussie who's been living over there, and the dude loves pink. Like, you know, if you don't know Richo, you probably have seen him. Pink everywhere. Pink. Have I mentioned he's a legend? Anyway, so he's another IT dude as well, and so like, you know, he's had a pretty strong upward trajectory. And I think it's because it's with these IT people who do the IT thing, have a moment to recharge during the week, so you can just put the hammer down on the weekend. You know what I mean?
Right.
And you know, like this, you know, call a spade. Skydiving is not a game to save money. You know, like you don't come here to buy a house.
No.
And if you've got a career that can effectively finance the ability to go hard, then you're in a pretty lucky position.
Well, and everybody that I've talked to that has or at least did the real world thing to get into skydiving, it was that ability to not have to get into jumping as a career to finance that career. Like for me and most of the jumpers I know, we became full-time skydivers because it was the only way we could keep jumping. It was just too expensive to do anything else. So if you have the ability to finance being a weekend jumper with the gear you want to do and to go jump your ass off, a lot of people that ended up in the sport probably would have gone a route like that. It just wasn't an option for a lot of us. You know, I mean, fuck, I was a Vegas stripper, for Christ's sakes. There was not a weekends were kind of when I made my money. So I didn't have a choice.
I've got $20 for you, my man.
So now you do events and you do, I'm assuming, obviously not during the time of COVID, that you do a fair bit of traveling for events and stuff?
Yeah, we used to. I actually, in preparation for this, went, actually, what have I done in terms of like international travel? And it started to get pretty good. Like if I was to look at this list and go, you get to go and do this stuff, I'd be like, damn, that's good. So
right.
It's a pretty nice list. I'm pretty excited I've actually done it. So like, you know, I cut my teeth on my first international boogie, went to Germany with Mason and a mate of mine, Dale. I did the German freefly boogie and heaps of tunnel and stuff. And then, you know, like, I mean, you've obviously heard of Funny Farm, like Funny Farm, dude. Actually, I'm actually driving to Farm on Thursday morning. We're doing it Saturday to Friday. I am stoked. I'm so excited, man.
Yeah, Funny Farm has got an international reputation. There's no doubt.
Oh man, yeah. I mean, my Farm. Goddamn. Yeah, we're pretty lucky to have Farm. Roger's obviously a full weapon. There's a whole bunch of people behind the scenes who really make it happen and stuff like that. Like there's a lady named Tracy who is, like farm probably these days wouldn't happen without Tracy because she's just an absolute weapon. Like I could talk probably more about that, but I'm not here to make Tracy feel good. Hopefully you're listening to this, Tracy. But yeah, like I did Fly, which is a wicked event if you want to learn. It's a 2-week consolidation with some of the best coaches in the world. Like, hell, I remember some of my coaches were like Raphael Schweiger and Tom Baker. Like, dude, are you serious? First time I met Sharon, I met Domi, like, what a laundry list of legends.
Yep.
But yeah, some other really cool stuff, man. Like jumping over the Great Barrier Reef here was awesome. Doing Fly for Life in DeLand, Funny Farm again. Actually more recently, I've been to Poland in 2018 to be the team manager for the Aussie swoop team, which was sick. Actually, there's a funny story about me just meeting Gregos, who runs Deem.
Yeah,
please. Deem Flyware.
Please.
And he's like, I'll tell you this after I finish off the list, but so then, made my way out to actually, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to tell you the story now.
Yeah.
The rest is not that important. Yeah. So like I'm getting into swooping, right? Like after the Aussie record, I had a bit of a moment and kind of disappointed myself, whatever, and said, you know what? Fuck it. Swooping's for me. And so, I go like, you know what? I didn't make the Aussie team because like I went to my first nationals, whatever, and I was an inter and came second. It's all good. So I'll be the Aussie team manager. I'll go over there. It'll lead into Angle Week and stuff like that. And I said, cool. I'm going to go to Poland, be the team manager. Fantastic.
Right.
What was real exciting about that is that once the event, like the World Cup in Poland, in a place called Wrocław or Wrocław, as I thought it was, finished. Gregos, who we effectively call Seahorse, because a bunch of us in Australia can't say Gregos, so we call him Seahorse, or Deem for short. He turns up, the freaking Polish godfather, and he's like, Colmer. I'm like, what are you doing here? I'm like, of course it made sense. It's Poland, you're Polish, whatever. Right. And he's like, oh, what are you up to? I'm just like, oh, dude, I'm just trying to work out what to do for the next week or so before I go to Angle Week. And hell, an Aussie with no plan in Europe, he's like, why don't you come to this event in this place called Justania? I'm like, where the hell is that? And he's like, it's called Go to Hell Boogie. I'm like, what the hell? And anyway, there was a weird exchange trying to work out what the hell we were talking about.
Right.
And he's just like, yeah, man, I'm leaving tomorrow, but come out to this place called Justania or Hell. And it's on this peninsula, like many hours train ride away. And there's this event, come and jump with it. And then we'll catch the ferry over to Angle Week. I'm like, perfect.
Yeah.
Absolutely freaking perfect. Yeah, this will be great. Anyway, so the event ends, party night, love party night. And, I trained my way back from Wrocław, absolutely trashed to Warsaw. Probably a bad idea to try and navigate Polish rural rail, decimated from the night before,
right,
or whatever, made it work. And had to get another connect to a place called Gdynia Gdansk, and that was relatively easy because there was still English somewhere.
Right.
And then there was the rural out to Justania, which is this like long peninsula, like 100 kilometers long, or like how many fucking miles is that? I don't know. Some amount of miles.
Yeah.
And it's like 500 meters to maybe a kilometer wide at some points. And he's got this event, which is right next to all this kiteboarding, next to this caravan park. And it's heaven, dude. And it's like Baltic Sea on one side and then just like the Polish Sea on the other side, just completely two different sets of worlds. And it's basically sea everywhere. And you just skydive heaps with a bunch of legends. I turn up there, Mamfi's there, Roberto Hernandez, you've got, French guy. No, name escapes me. Sorry, I should know. I'm so sorry. I remember your name. And we just skydive heaps and just party for a flat out week, and then get on a ferry over to Angle Week, and then bam.
I mean, it's the randomness of it all, right? That's the coolest thing about it is you never fucking know where it's going to lead or who you're going to bump into. I mean, I've showed up at places where I assumed I wouldn't know anybody, and half a dozen rock stars I've known throughout my entire career are just kicking back on the packing mat, and you have no idea what's going on. So the randomness of that kind of stuff and where it can lead is bizarre. It is. Not to mention...
It's my favorite favorite part.
Well, and you mentioned the party culture of skydiving as well. It's funny to see the progression of new jumpers throughout their careers as they start to realize what the community is really like and what the parties are really like. And you can see the A, B, C, and D licensed partiers.
Yeah.
It really is, man. I mean, you've got the people with their pro ratings out there and the people that are still in AFF, kind of so to speak, and it's fucking hilarious because it's
there's that one person still stuck on like F4, just repeating the stage.
Yep, over and over again. Well, and it's funny because those are the ones, just like with skydiving, the ones that seem to have the most trouble getting into it in the beginning are the ones that end up ruling the roost, so to speak. They take it over.
Man, I have seen some absolutely dreadful skydivers who are like nighttime party LO. You know, like this is world-class LO who's turned up, and I'm like, please don't leave. Skydiving's not for you, but please don't leave.
Yeah. Oh, no, absolutely. Well, and that's the cool thing about it, right? Is as soon as the sun goes down, it doesn't matter what's happening on the landing area or who did what in the skydive. It's party time, and it's a whole different shift. You know, I mean, it's, all right, that was fun, or holy shit, that was bad, but it's time to move on. Let's go. Party's on.
But you know what, man? Like, before my generation, like, I've seen some of the footage. I've heard the stories. Like, people were fucking loose. And I feel like now, correct me if I'm wrong, like, I feel like it's all acro yoga and kale smoothies these days. You know what I mean? Like, it's very different.
It is definitely... I don't want to say that the parties aren't as intense because I know that some of them are. It's that they aren't so frequent and they aren't just a matter of course. Like, it's a big deal when something really goes off. Whereas my time and I always fall back to Cross Keys because those were my wildest days. But for the roughly 3 years that I was there, it just didn't fucking stop. Like, you showed up for day one of the season and 9 months later you left because you needed a break. It was just full on all the time. You know, you sobered up to go jump and you jumped your ass off, and as soon as the sun was down, you were back at it.
Oh man. Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I think you're really right. Actually, I think the partying is maybe not so visible, or maybe not quite so as expansive as it was before. Like, it used to be, people were like doing jumps at 800 feet, you know, like twisted on, you know, a bunch of whiskey or whatever it is. Like, it was just super loose. Whereas now, you know, I think it's like, maybe not so visible, but it's still there. But I'm not sure it's as prevalent. I certainly haven't seen it because of COVID and stuff recently, but that was kind of my observation.
Well, I just had a great conversation with a legend, and he's just about to turn 70 actually, as well. A guy by the name of Mo Valetto, who is just a fucking legend in skydiving. He was one of the stunt guys that did some of the stunts in the movie Drop Zone. I mean, he's been around for quite some time. So he's talking about at one point during, and the podcast may have been released by the time this one comes out, but he was talking about knowing the guy that invented the phrase safety meeting.
He invented that, is he?
Which is, of course, world famous, and he talks about events where people were getting dosed on acid before they would go jump, or
oh my god,
the reason that the whole safety meeting thing started. And so I think that's a generational thing too, right? I talked to Bill Booth, who told me the best thing about learning how to skydive in the 60s was the drugs were better. I mean, fucking hell, you know, and this is from a legend in the sport. And so I think each generation kind of has their own version of it. And this one isn't, I don't think it's any more mellow. I think that people that are partying hard in skydiving now are partying just as hard. They're just being smarter about it. Like my generation.
More discreet.
More discreet.
Yeah, more discreet. For sure.
You know, my generation was the our little version of the 60s. You know, we were fucking hippies and wild child and all over the place and didn't give a flying fuck who thought what. And this generation is a little bit more subtle, which is a good thing.
Yeah, I don't think it's bad, man. Like, there's probably two things I want to say here. Is like, I think that it's gone a long way to the what's the word I'm looking for? The professionalism of skydiving. Like, you know, in order for it to be taken as seriously by ourselves and other people, you know, man, look how far tunnel flying has come. It's a legit sport. There's legit careers. There are some legit athletes. Like, holy hell. And you know, you look at people like Airwax, you go, God damn,
Yep.
that's taking it real seriously. And you know, like if it's just a bunch of yahoos just getting like full loose every weekend, every week, you know what I mean? We don't take it as seriously, and other people don't take it seriously, and you know, like it's probably.
Yeah.
I think it's a discount to call skydiving a sport. It's obviously a lifestyle, right? There's a sport element to it, but you know, like in order for us to be able to reap the rewards of the investment, you know, we've got to have more money coming to the sport. We've got to have more, you know, observation from the outside, more all of that stuff, all the demos, you know, NASCAR, blah 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 blah.
Sure.
So yeah, we've got to take it seriously, and I think, you know, maybe a little bit of partying, disappearing for 5 of the 7 days is maybe not bad. But,
no, it's not a bad thing at all. And again, that discretion is something that a lot of my generation didn't show, at least back when it was, you know, hard charging. But it is a good thing. But again, that's one of the cool things, at least in my estimation, about the community is everybody's got that little twinkle in their eye. Because everybody knows, or they've been to one of those parties, or they've been in that type of environment, and so you kind of all know that behind the scenes, you know, you roll up the button-up shirt and you're going to find some ink, you know.
Oh man, yeah. Well, yeah, we're two friggin' tattooed dudes sitting here.
Absolutely. You know, that was kind of funny too. I just finished getting almost finished getting my second sleeve. You know, I guess my extended version of a midlife crisis is I keep getting ink. But if you put me in a button-up shirt and a tie, I look like a normal, you know, middle-aged white dude going to do whatever. But as soon as the sleeves get rolled up, it's, oh shit. And I always kind of like that. And I think skydiving is its own version of that. You can be walking down the street and everybody just assumes you're a normal person, and they don't realize that this is who you really are, which is kind of cool.
I do like that, man, as well. You know, like just to kind of draw parallels about tattooing, you know, like I'm half Korean, and my mom definitely does not like the 80 hours of tattooing I have on my body.
Right.
And yeah, and it's the same thing like the workplace, you know, like people can judge you and stuff like that. But you know, the secretness of what it is you kind of keep close to yourself that you don't have to necessarily advertise is really valuable, you know.
Oh yeah.
You are not necessarily, well, you are not actually the product of what people think you are. You are whatever it is that you think you are and whatever you want to be. You know
Sure.
what I mean? And if that's a person with a heap of free fall experience that no one knows has that, it's just like, cool, that's your secret to enjoying your own.
Absolutely. Well, it kind of is that little secret you get to keep in the back of your head. And obviously when I was new in skydiving, every fucking buddy within a 10-mile radius knew I was jumping out of airplanes because
Same.
everybody, of course, it was the old joke about a pilot. How do you know which guy in the room is a pilot? Don't worry, he'll tell you.
He'll tell you.
Same thing with being a skydiver, and same thing with when I was a new pilot. But you kind of get past that and realize, well, wait a second. First off, these people don't fucking care if you're doing this. And second off, it's kind of cool to keep that as a little secret because I hate to say this because it's a horrible thing to say, but you have this feeling of superiority. Like, these people don't know what I can do. I know how to fly. I can do this shit. I jump out of planes. And you kind of really do walk around not above it all, but you just kind of think, I've got a secret that these people don't know about. And it's really kind of cool.
Totally, man. Yeah. Because I remember back in the day, it's like walking into a skate shop, got to buy some skate shoes, and they're just like, oh, here's your skate shoes, sir. And I'm just like, yeah, you know, they're the best shoes for skydiving. And they're just like, I don't give a fuck. And it's just like at the supermarket, it's just like, yeah, I'm buying this carrot for skydiving on the weekend. It's just any opportunity to tell people I was a skydiver is like, oh yeah, you know, bubble gum is best before sky. It's just anything.
Yep.
You know, it's just yeah.
And
But
one out
that's
of
like
1,000 people will actually go, oh, you skydive?
yeah. And then enough time transpires where people are like, hey, what do you get up to? And the answer I have for them is like camping. I'm into camping because no one gives a flying fuck about camping. No one asks any more questions.
No.
Yeah.
Although I find
what tent do you use?
it's also really weird too. I'll be out and I'll meet people through friends or girlfriends or whatever that don't know that I fly or don't know that I skydive, and I'll have, you know, a T-shirt or something on, and all the ink shows, and I'm very much myself all the time. So I still cuss way too much, and I'm not, you know, I'm not particularly presentable a lot of the time. And they'll ask, "What do you do?" And I always just, "Oh, I'm a pilot." You're a what? I fly planes. What, like little planes? And I'm like, no, I'm an airline transport pilot. And you can just see their eyes get so big, like, you fly people? You know, and yes, I do. You know, and I always thought that was kind of funny as well, because it's funny how you can kind of keep people off guard, like you as well. You know, if people in your IT didn't know you jumped out of airplanes, and then they ask, "Oh, what are you doing this weekend?" "Oh, I'm going to go do some crazy shit jumping out of airplanes." Then they're like, "What?" So it's kind of nice to flip things on its head as well.
Oh, dude, I think I just want to draw a parallel to swooping. Hey, because like more recently, swooping's been my game,
Right?
And it's been super cool to see over in that space as well. Everyone is just humble and chill.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it just, because it's always that really disappointing moment where you meet your heroes and you go like, oh, you're a dickhead.
Yep.
Oh no.
Yep.
But it's really cool to kind of cruise around, and then you meet people like, I don't know, like Max Mano and Marco First, and you go, you are straight up legends.
Yep.
Like straight up and down legends, you know.
Yep.
And then, you know, you meet a whole bunch of other people and stuff like that. Kurt, super cool. You know, you meet all of these people and you go, I'm so glad you're not dickheads. This is fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like, it's funny. My first canopy coach, his name's Darren Griggs, and I messaged him and said, "Oi, I'm I'm talking to someone. Might talk a little bit about you." He's this hilarious dude. Like when I first met him, my first canopy coach, 50 jumps. I'm scared as fuck, scared of heights, scared of pulling the toggles. And he said to me, "Cool, pull the strings, don't go in." And I was like, how do you say that to me? As a canopy coach, hilarious. Fast forward 8 years. I mean, I tell my students, please don't go in. I obviously say in a more effective way, but yeah, kind of to some extent. But you know, it's we've got some really, really talented people around who don't put it out there for the whole world to see in an extravagant sense. They kind of do it with their actions alone.
Sure.
You know, like here is the results of the hard work I've been putting in. There it is. You know.
Yeah.
And it's amazing that we've got people like that around us who are just putting in fucking work all the time. Like Olga. Look at Olga.
Oh yeah.
Weapon.
Yeah, no, she's a certified fucking badass, because and she'll be the first one to admit she was a horrible canopy pilot. Like, people didn't want her to skydive because they were convinced she was going to kill herself under a canopy. I will admit, once or twice, I thought she was going to kill herself under a canopy, but it's putting in that hard work, and she really, really is earning it. You know, I mean, you've got her and you've got Cornelia, who is as just mellow and nice as you can possibly be. I mean, Pablo Hernandez, an absolute gent, and he's out there smashing it. Junior, same thing. You know, I mean, all these amazing canopy pilots, and I've been lucky enough to have so many of them on the podcast, and you get to talk to all these people, and then step it up a notch, and you've got people like Julian or all the boys out at Icarus that are kicking ass building these canopies that are pushing the fucking limits, and talking to Attila and him going, yeah, I don't want to test jump these things anymore because I scared the shit out of myself, and then sending me the video, but they're so humble about it, you know, and that's one of the most impressive things is you're watching people do shit that's almost inhuman, and they're super chill, super relaxed.
Man, I got to bring this up. Like, I did not include Cornelia Mihai in the list of legends. I should have absolutely included Corns. I freaking love you. You are a treasure. We will have you in Australia as an Australian in a moment. Like, we love you, Cornelia.
Yeah.
But like in 2018, when I went to Poland, like I was doing a project for our Australian Parachute Federation to actually interview a couple of people to kind of build out like an interview series to show to our canopy community. And you know, like I didn't know anyone. Like I was just getting into swooping, and I'd seen the videos on Instagram. I'm like, oh my God. And I actually got the opportunity to interview Cornelia and Greg Windmiller and Ian Bobo. Like, what
legend.
a all-star crew of swoop legends. It was just legends in general, but obviously skydiving and swoop legends.
Yeah.
And man, I probably need to actually release this to the wider world, this material, because it is just straight up and down fantastic information about, you know, how to stay hungry, how to motivate yourself, how to look after yourself, how to push new boundaries. But, you know, also the thing that I really liked is like none of them profess to be perfect or come out the gates perfect, but to go, listen, this is what I learned from mistakes. I'm like, oh, cool, you guys make mistakes too.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So good.
Yeah, it's huge. I mean, talking to Luigi Conti and finding out, that the shit that he's doing scares the piss out of him, but he controls that fear. And talking to, again, legends in swooping or skydiving in any facet, who talk about making mistakes and having to overcome that stuff. And especially in swooping, overcoming the injuries and the burrs that can put in your brain, having to work to get past that kind of stuff. Because I know from experience with stuff like that, it takes a while to get back in the saddle and to get hurt and get back, under the lines and having fun and pushing it again. That's tough, man. It takes a real mental strength that people want to hear about.
Big time. Yeah, I mean, maybe I can talk about some of my injuries. You know what I mean?
Please.
I remember in 2013, I was maybe on an A license or a B license. I went for a jump with this German guy who was a packer, and when you're new, you still think I have to land in the circle. Got to land in that circle. I got to hit that accuracy requirements. Do or die, I'm landing in that circle. Anyway, long story short, low turn, hit the ground, and then I don't want to use the word bounce because it's inappropriate, but effectively I fucking bounced back up, and the canopy was still in full flight, and then I sailed off into the distance a little bit, and then boom, and then man, people were not happy, people were scared, people were running, all that stuff.
Yep.
But because I was a thick boy, my body was fairly resilient, and Don, the Dizo owner and stuff like that, said, "You fucking idiot!" Just said, "Get in there and brush off my rental rig, you idiot." He let me know what time it was. But I actually still carry that injury today. I actually tore this thing called levator scapula in my left shoulder, and so every morning I wake up and it's tough.
Yep.
And I'm constantly reminded and loosening it off all the time. So we have these moments, but I remember in 2017 I was at my second farm, and you burn the candles at both ends. You jump hard and as hard as you can. Maybe not so much that these days anyway, but we'll see next week. But I remember this one swoop, like I got put in the top group at farm in 2017, and we were doing these hectic jumps, and we're jumping with Kai Kai, who also legend.
Yeah.
Shout out to Kai Kai.
Yeah.
Also a thick boy, so like I appreciated the way he flies.
Right.
I was setting up for a 270, and there was another guy setting up in front of me doing a 450, and he took a bit of time. I was lower, but I'm like, cool, he's set up at the pond, he should go. And so I was there setting up for this 270 on a JFX 94, I think it was at the time, and I was lower than I should have been, and I didn't account for it, and I hit the water so hard, so close to the edge. Roger thought I was going to die, and I looped through the lines, everything. The footage is pretty hectic. It took me a while to watch it. Tore an MCL in my right knee and lost part of my hamstring in my left leg, which still affects my squat to these days.
Sure.
So I still fall off to the right, but man, like that was a real wake up call. Hey, like I had to change a whole approach to swooping.
Sure.
And I still carry that to this day, like the injuries, but also the perspective change, which is every swoop starts off with an abort, and I find a reason to swoop. Like
Sure.
I look for a reason to swoop rather than look for a reason to abort, because it's pretty convenient. You'll always find a reason not to abort.
Well, bottom line is this is the only sport or only activity I've ever found where it actually learning from other people's mistakes is the smartest thing you can do. For the rest of my life, I have to make my own mistakes. But in this one, I want to learn from others, because just like you, I carry the memory of injuries in the sport forever. And at 35, trust me, it gets worse as you get older. Every injury I've ever had in the sport,
doubt.
Oh, fuck me, man. But it's kind of it's a good tap on the shoulder to, hey, you remember when you were an idiot? Don't do that again, because this is what happens. And it's kind of that rolling memory of, okay, this is what stupid feels like.
Oh, totally, man. Yeah, yeah. Well, I remember it was like the New Year's of 2018, 2019. We had this event in a place called Maria, which if you're listening, Matt, Google it, like Skydive Oz in Maria, like heaven, dude, flat out heaven. And that was a wicked event called Skyfest, and I was organizing and doing a whole bunch of jumping, and like just pretty tired at the end. The last jump of the year, the last jump of the event, and I send it for this wicked fast angle, and people smiling back and going, yeah, high fives, that sort of stuff. Anyway, deploy, happy things, all good. Coming in to set up this 450, and I had in my mind set up like, cool, I'm going to swoop between the air blades, the wind blades. And so come in, pretty tired, whatever, swoop, see the wind blades, and like, what is someone doing standing on the other side of this wind blade? I'm like, oh, I had not seen them.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I've committed to the line, so I'm like, I got to find a way through this line. And so I swoop through the middle, but then I'm about to hit this person. So then I kind of carve it to the right, and I was a fraction too early, just a fraction. And the inside of my my canopy on the right-hand side, the A-line gets clipped, and boom, on my layer 86 loaded at like 2.8, just straight up macking, just planed out, throws me to the ground, bang, knockout, concussed. And there was so much footage from all the different angles. I was sent footage for weeks. Like, have you seen this angle? I'm like, no, I haven't seen this angle. Fuck off. And it was actually a really embarrassing moment for me. Like, the only injury I had, hilariously, was a big, like, blown up lip. Like, again, I got really lucky with that one as well.
Sure.
Those two ones. And I just had to deal with the fact that I was a fucking idiot, and try to take away the lesson, which is have a good plan. Don't assemble things and watch it when you're tired, and try to help others kind of see it for what it is too.
Yeah, man. I mean, you're going to learn from those lessons for sure. It's a hard way to learn them, but it's also really funny how when stuff like that is happening, it all, in such a fast-paced sport, slows down so fucking much. Oh, shit. I've fucked up.
Yeah.
It's going to take a while for this fuck up, and it's going to suck when it's over. And all of this is taking place in the 5 seconds, 6 seconds.
Yeah.
While all hell
Half a
breaks
second.
loose.
Half a second.
Yeah. It's amazing how
Totally, yeah.
much clarity of mind you can have to realize, oh, I'm fucked. This is not good.
Oh, man. Dude, I had a big spill in South Africa at World Cup in 2019. It was my first Worlds, like, competing, and I did so bad, but I also did so good. In terms of, like, if you actually looked at the result, like, I think I came second last, but I came in with so much expectation on myself, and I came in with so much hope and desire and stuff like that. And it was not the mindset I carry through when I normally swoop or when I compete and stuff like that. So, problem. And Pat K, wicked coach, wicked legend. Shout out to Pat K.
Yeah.
He kind of helped me through getting my shit together to a point. But I full fingered myself on the last jump. It was speed. And, it's 5,000 feet ASL, sorry. And it's macking. It's just, there's only word for it, man. It's macking. Like, I'm setting up 2 times as far back as you normally do, whatever. And I am not dirty low. I'm like just low, lowercase L low. And hip check the water, hit a bollard with my lines. And as I'm effectively, like, barrel rolling and glancing across the water, like full aquaplaning, I remember in that moment thinking, oh, man, I hope it doesn't get too dirty. Is my gear going to be too wet? I got a flight tomorrow. As I'm cruising along the water, and then somehow managed to settle on this amazing red dust on the other side. And then, when you have a spill and you need to let everybody know you're okay. I'm conscious. Hand can go up. A hand goes bang straight up. Yeah. And I hadn't thought, like, actually, I'm okay. I'm just letting you know I'm not unconscious or dead. Yeah. That's a really good start. Because unfortunately, Alex Hart actually had a bit of an issue before, afterwards as well. He hit as well, so it was something about our pass. So I see all these Aussies running towards me, and then I stand up, and then I hear the crowd go, "Yeah!" Because I'm not dead, which is great, and not unconscious, also great. I'm only slightly sore neck, but it's amazing how much you can calculate and contemplate in a short amount of time when shit's going down.
So much. Well, and it becomes almost commonplace in skydiving because a normal, uneventful skydive, regardless of what you're doing, if it's something you're used to, is long. The 4 or 5 minutes from the time you leave the airplane to the time you're back on the ground, that's a long time for a skydiver. Time slows down dramatically. So, you have, on top of that, add another 15 seconds of, oh shit, but it's not that panicked, oh shit. It's the, all right, how many different ways can this go bad now? How do I mitigate as much as possible? And so it's very difficult for a non-jumper to understand, or someone that doesn't put themselves in our situations to understand how fucking quickly your brain gets going to try and problem solve or convince yourself that it's not going to be as bad as it might be. I've been in the middle of that. You're either convincing yourself that you're dead or you're convincing yourself that, I'll be able to walk this one off, and you haven't even stopped fucking moving yet.
Oh man, it's such a an understatement to say our game is a mind game. You know what I mean? And it kind of sets you up for a life of trying to overcome mind games, right?
Yes.
Skydiving will mind games at you in the plane, on the packing mat, in free fall, under canopy, at home. God, it's mind gaming all the time. That's the best mind game ever.
Oh yeah, I mean, it will
game.
for your entire sport. You know, I mean, I used to have a spot on the highway that if I turned around at that spot, I could go home without jumping and I could feel good about myself. But if I drove past that spot, I had to go make one jump or I would feel like shit, because I'd be scared going out to the drop zone. And then there still relatively low time. I think I had maybe 60 jumps, and me and a buddy are going up in the 182, and he forgot his altimeter and I forgot my goggles, so we both rode the plane down like fucking idiots. Yeah. Instead of, well, all right, I don't have goggles, but you've got an altimeter, so here, take my altimeter, or you take my goggles, or I'll just fly on my back. No, none of that. You were just scared, all that stuff. So it's a total mental game, and I mean, throw in a little bit of luck in skydiving as well. We're all definite beneficiaries of luck for sure.
Big time, man. I had this AF student on the plane on the weekend, and he was all flustered. Oh, no one told me that there was a call, and get a gear check, and just like everything that he was flustered about. Just like, cool, I'll engage with that, whatever. Gear check. And then in the plane, he was like, oh man, you know what? I'm really sorry. And I said to him, dude, you're about to do a skydive. Just chill. Best thing you can do is chill. Yep. Whatever it is that you're doing in your head right now is not making the problem any better. Relax. I got no problem with it. You got no problem with it. Go have a fucking good jump.
Oh, yeah. My go-to line for tandem students or AFFs that were having a really tough time was, if you weren't nervous, then I would be concerned. You should be nervous. You're going to jump out of a fucking airplane. There's a lot of shit going on, but take a deep breath, because we're going to get through it just fine, But you really do have to play, an on-the-spot psychiatrist and talk people through shit, which is one of the funnest things about skydiving. It's one of the reasons that I enjoyed being a tandem instructor so much, is because you've got to sum up this entire human being in front of you in a matter of minutes to do what you need to do to get them out of an airplane safely, and so it's a lot of fun. So,
big time. Yeah, I mean,
please go ahead.
There's like 4 people in mind to me who are like just full masters of like the mind game stuff. Like I got 4 mates like Andrew Keir, Tane Farron, Reed Ramage. They're kind of a crew called AWOL, but just like full masters of the mindset. And there's and Dave Heineman as well. Reed and I and Dave, we all started skydiving at about a similar amount of time, but like the knowledge, bombs they drop on me around trying to how to restructure my mindset and get better for, just all of this sort of stuff is super valuable.
Sure.
Like I remember Dave, me like once upon a time, like, hey Colmer, man, I really wish that goals didn't exist. I'm like, what the actual fuck are you talking about? He's just like, yeah, man, for me, the journey is the goal. I'm like, God damn, you are like 5 years old, bro. Like, where did that knowledge bomb come from?
Right.
Like he's at least 18, but I think he's like 21. I'm not sure. Dude's young, but like there's we're all pretty lucky to have some fucking switched on dudes around us, and I've got a couple of really switched on dudes.
Well, and that's the other cool thing about the sport too, is age has absolutely no relevance in skydiving, none whatsoever. I meet guys that are 20 years younger than me that are ridiculously wise beyond their years, and I know guys that are 20 years older than me that are fucking idiots, and they're out still just doing silly shit and having fun, and I love it. Age has nothing to do with it. Money has nothing to do with it. Status has nothing to do with it. That's my favorite thing, is it's an equal playing field for the most part.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So I was gonna ask before we wrap things up, how did you get started out with Icarus and NZ Aerosports?
Oh man, I've flown a lot of NZA wings. Hey, like a lot. Like I think my first 2 wings were Sabres, And then I got into like a whole suite of crossfires, 149s, 129s, 119s, 109s, JFX. I did a small foray with a Velocity 96, but I made a video called Fuck You Velocity, which is a compilation of all of the worst openings with me screaming Fuck You Velocity. I don't mean saying velocities are bad wings. I'm just saying that the velocity I had can eat shit and die. And I have no idea where it is now, but the further away from me, the better. But man, like I started flying like a JFX, like blew my mind how good that wing was. Hey, you know, the Leia 86 was just like, dude, are you serious? Are you serious? You made the Leia? What is this thing?
Right.
And got myself a 79 Leia, and I'm like, I'm getting serious on swooping. I am I'm pretty mature free fly coach. I've been free fly coaching for a long time, and I want to get serious about competitive swooping, and I'm getting into XRW now. So I'm ordering a Petra 69, which I load at 3.5 without weight.
Yeah.
But I've got my Petra 70, and I'm just fucking all in on the NZA thing, right? And if I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do it seriously, I figure the only way I can swoop is with a wing. I mean, no shit, but and I want a partnership with a manufacturer who I'm into. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying other wings aren't great.
Sure.
I'm definitely not saying that. All modern wings are amazing. All manufacturers are doing their best. For me, NZA make the fucking bee's knees.
Sure.
You know what I mean? I'm such an old wing. They make the fucking best wings. You know what I mean?
For me, it's
it's
the business model is I mean, come on.
How good is it? Like,
I had an NZ fuck yeah sticker before I'd ever seen an NZ canopy, which, I mean, it just, the fucking business model is about as skydiving as you can possibly get. It's just awesome.
Bro, if you ever met, I mean, you obviously met Gyro,
yeah,
and you have a fucking Heineken with Gyro, like, you never forget it. Like, dude, like, I mean, rest in peace, bro, but like, NZA, like, the level of support they give me, the way they respond to the queries I have, what they do, the level of innovation, like, I was just like, now I want a partner, and NZA, you're it. I mean, like, the fact that they're across the ditch in New Zealand is a bonus. It wasn't the reason, but man, I first time I jumped to Leia, I went, this is for me.
Nice.
You know what I mean?
Nice.
And it continues to be the wing for me. And the Petra just, honestly, it has spoiled the Leia, but what a problem to have.
Right. Yeah. It's definitely a first world problem right there. So hey, as we wrap things up, how do people find you for free fly coaching? How do they find out where you're going to compete? How do they follow you? How do they figure out what you're doing next?
You know what, man, I'm pretty easy on the social media stuff. I haven't got an athlete page or anything like that set up because, I mean, it sounds silly, but I don't really see myself as an athlete despite what I do. I probably should do it. I've got a Facebook page. Like, I'll accept, Facebook requests from whoever, really.
Sure.
I'm on Instagram as Simon.Colmer, I think it is. And I haven't got Twitter because people just don't need to hear the inner monologue I have. It's just too much.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, pretty active on the free fly coaching scene in Australia. For now, it's just Australia with COVID. But I've got some big designs on swooping around the world. Just warming up, and same thing with XRW. Like, I want to make it my thing.
Awesome. Well, dude, I'm looking forward to seeing post-COVID what comes out of the free fly coaching around the world, the XRW, and especially the swoop and stuff. But I tell you what, man, I cannot thank you enough for bringing your box of wine and sitting down and shooting the shit with me. So cheers, long distance, for that.
That's it. Thanks for having me, man. I've really, really freaking enjoyed this.
Awesome. Simon, take care, man.
You too, dude.
Well, there you have it. Another episode of the Lunatic Fringe podcast, brought to you as always by, well, wait, not as always, actually. Brought to you now by Gyro. Formerly known as NZ Aerosports, you'll head to gyro.com for their next level line of canopies. By Pussfoot, the Extreme Sports Collective. Head over to pussfoot.com to check it out. By Summit Parachute Systems, check out summitparachutesystems.com to talk to Jarrett Martin and the gang about kick-ass pilot rigs, rigging courses, and more. By Flyaway Indoor Skydiving, go to flyawaytn.com and check out all the cutting-edge stuff to come. By Pure Spectrum CBD. Head to purespectrumcbd.com to check out their wide range of CBD products. And as for us, head to the lunaticfringepodcast.com to listen to any of the hundreds of episodes currently available, hit the link for our YouTube channel, pick up your copy of the Lunatic Fringe book or The Accidental Stripper, and get a sneak peek at upcoming guests. Once again, thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.